As of today, literally an hour ago, we just sold Cellar Door Plants, and this has been a long time coming. It didn't just happen overnight. But before I hand the reins off to someone else, I wanted to do a deep dive into each stage of growth of Cellar Door Plants from the very beginning, the idea, to where it is now, and talk about the things that we did really well and the things that we could have improved on. This really feels like a junior thesis to me because this was the last 3 years of my life that I'm recapping in this video. And I hope that you're able to take the things that we did well and implement them in your business if you're starting a business. And I hope that you can avoid or try to avoid a lot of the mistakes that we made along the way. So I have broken our growth out into 4 stages, and they are plant themed because it only makes sense. So hopping into the first stage, the seed stage. This is the idea of Cellar Door and, the really humble beginnings of it. And then we're going to go into the sprout stage, then the full-grown plant stage and taking care of that full-grown plant. And then we're going to go into the repotting stage. Beginning with the seed stage, Zach and I actually had other business ideas before Cellar Door Plants. We tried to do soda water and bitters. We tried to sell candles online. We tried to do natural incense online. And none of these things really took off, and we never put too much effort into it. And the original idea for Cellar Door Plants came along when Zach and I went to Home Depot, or I think Ace, and we were looking for plant pots for a bunch of plants that Zach had just bought. And as we were looking at the pots, we're like, none of these are cute. None of these are unique. I want a unique plant pot for our plants. And so that's how the idea of Cellar Door Plants first came along, is it was a planter company. We were looking for cute planters and selling them to customers online. And so we built a Shopify store and we connected it to AliExpress, and we were drop shipping planters from China to the US. And through that model, we were doing $5,000 to $10,000 months, but I absolutely hated the drop shipping model from China. The quality sometimes wasn't the best. Even if we ordered samples and we checked them out, it was just inconsistent with the quality. The wait times took forever. It would take 2-3 weeks for someone to get their product. And sometimes the suppliers were just a little bit shady or just not very forward. And so we really, through this period of time, we were like, okay, this is working. People are interested in plant pots, but we just do not like this model. We need to start looking for a supplier in the United States who can supply plant pots or even plants, because we had started to get questions from customers about, hey, could you sell plants too, or do you sell plants as well? The 3 things that we did well during the seed phase were, 1, we launched when things were not perfect. This was our original store. So this was the design, this was the palette of colors. I even had this weird pink in there. And, this was our logo. So it was kind of a rinkety-dinkety store, but this store generated over $100,000 in revenue for us. And when we were first building it, I was like, oh, this doesn't look good, or it doesn't look perfect. And we just launched anyway. Zach talked me out of that thinking. And I'm so happy we did, because a lot of the improvements that we made to our site were through what customers gave suggestions on. So do not be afraid to just launch your store, even if it doesn't feel perfect. And look now, like, this is our store now, and we obviously did a redesign and everything, and it looks way better now, but we did do a lot of sales off this rinkety-dinkety store. And in addition to that, like, these were our first ads. Like, these don't look great. These were some of our first product photos. Honestly, these ones kind of look good. Me modeling these plants. So that's the first thing that we did well. The second thing we did well is that we saw a hole in the market and we filled it with a business. And even though selling planters online isn't this revolutionary idea, we saw that there was a problem. Like, we couldn't find these cute planters, and we thought, other people might be having this problem as well. And we tested it by starting a Shopify store and starting to advertise our planters. So if you have a problem in your day-to-day life, there might be a business idea around that. So post on Instagram, post a poll and ask, hey, do you guys have this issue too? Look in Facebook groups, look on Reddit, see if other people are experiencing that problem, and there might be a business idea around it. The third thing that we did well is that we did not buy inventory up front. We used the drop shipping model. And obviously, I'm not a fan of the China drop shipping model, but you don't have to do that in order to not have to purchase inventory. So for example, you could build a Shopify store, order some samples from a supplier, take photos of them and do a pre-order. Be like, hey, we're doing a pre-order at this low price. And then once they purchase from your store, then you can order the inventory. If you order a bunch of inventory and you don't even know if people are going to purchase the product, you don't know if they're interested in it, you're going to be sitting with thousands of dollars of inventory and no sales. So make sure that people are actually interested in the product before buying inventory. The 3 things that we didn't do so well at this stage are: 1, we didn't set up business requirements, and I'm going to cut us a little bit of slack because this is our first business, but we should have put up some requirements on how we wanted this business to run or what we wanted it to look like. And I can give an example of this. We had a product with a average, if not low, profit margin. And going forward into future businesses, I'm going to look for products with higher profit margins so that I don't have to sell as much of the product in order to cover fixed costs. So as you're starting your business, think of some non-negotiable items that you want to put down as requirements. The second thing that we didn't do well is we really didn't have a plan farther than the day-to-day. We kind of did what popped up each day and that we thought we needed to do. And it would have been nice to have a quarterly plan or a yearly plan so that we could focus on those big items that were going to move the business forward. So as you're starting your business, definitely have a forward vision or be thinking about where you want to be going forward so you're not doing a lot of aimless tasks during the day. They make sense to get you from point A to point B. The third thing that we didn't do as well is we didn't test our product with customers. Like what I said before, doing an Instagram poll or looking at Reddit, looking in Facebook, we kind of just started testing it by running ads to our planters. And so we did spend money in order to have to get feedback from customers. So we could have done a little bit more customer research before launching the product. Now getting into the sprout phase. So the seedling has started to sprout and it's growing. The business is starting to grow, but it's in the very beginning stages. So like I said before, we did not like the model of drop shipping anything out of China. And so we started to look for suppliers in the US. And by hook or by crook, it's a lot longer story, but we found a supplier who was shipping planters and he was also shipping plants. And so we connected with him. I actually called him up and he started to ship out plants for us in the US. And from there, we really started to grow. So with the shipping times only being 5 to 7 days, it was a lot more attractive to customers and we had a lot more control over what was going on and the quality of the product. If there was an issue, we would just Slack our supplier, Andy. During this time, we flew down to the greenhouse and we met with our supplier and we took product photos in the greenhouse. We had these product photos the supplier had given us, but they weren't great. And so we wanted to take some that really showed off how beautiful the plants were. And over this period is when we started to do those $20,000, $40,000, and $70,000 months. The first thing that we did well is that we pivoted. We saw that people were interested in planters and plants, but the way we were distributing them was wrong and where we were sourcing them was wrong. And so we found this supplier in the US. And in addition to that, the product was way more exciting for Zach and myself. Instead of selling plastic online, we were actually selling something that was alive, that someone could care for, that was part of their living space. And really during COVID, for a lot of people, was a self-care ritual. And so it was a lot more meaningful to sell plants online than what we were doing before. And there have been a lot of businesses that their first idea is not their best idea. And so they have pivoted or used what they've learned from that previous idea to create the next business. Slack is a perfect example. They started out as a gaming company and they created Slack to talk back and forth. And they realized that Slack was actually a better business opportunity than this gaming company. So your first idea is not always going to be your best idea. Do not cling on to it. Be okay with pivoting and trying something new. The second thing we did well is that we laid out the groundwork to have customers come back again and again. We did not focus on just selling one plant once to a customer. We started to lay out our email marketing and our customer service so that if people had an issue, we would have someone who's there to take care of them. And we would have email marketing to get people to come back and buy more plants. Your lifetime value of a customer is really, really important. And it's way easier to get someone to purchase again from your store than marketing to a whole other person. So don't just focus on that first sale. Definitely find ways to get customers to come back and build a community of people. The third thing that we did well is that we hired someone to do our CS and we had a great first hire. And she really set the tone for our next hires and was super helpful, took a lot off of Zach and my plate. and was a great person to bring onto the team. So who you hire in the beginning is super important. What we didn't do well during this stage was, one, not diversifying our marketing strategy. We were heavily reliant on Facebook ads, and so we would do the roller coaster with Facebook ads. So I wish that we had started to explore earlier Pinterest, Google, more social media, affiliate marketing, and see other avenues to get customers to our site. The second thing that we didn't do well is that we did not manage our finances as well as we could have. We invested every single penny back into the business. We invested in a lot of coaching, a lot of courses, a lot of things that we thought were going to help us grow. But when I look back on it, we really should have been investing our money a little bit smarter, as well as starting to pay ourselves or coming up with a strategy to pay ourselves a monthly salary. And I did pay myself from time to time, but I never did it consistently. And it's really important, if you're putting a lot of time and energy into a business, that you start to find a way to be able to pay yourself consistently. The third thing that we didn't do super well is that we were not prepared for the winter.
And winter is coming!
And shipping houseplants in the winter is really hard because it gets cold and there's carrier delays and the plants are alive, so they might die. And I had thought about preparing for the winter, like maybe we need heat packs or insulated packaging, and had really never just acted on it. And so then when the winter came, it was a disaster that first year. And so if you have a forethought or you have an inkling that something's going to go wrong, immediately start fixing that or addressing it. Don't wait for it to blow up in your face. Okay, now we are dealing with a fully grown plant. I should find an example plant. This is one of my favorites. This is the Palea. A lot of people love this one. It's like a UFO plant. It kind of looks like it's from the 70s, but this is a fully grown plant. And so I have to care for this. I have to give it water, fertilize it, give it light. I can't just let it die or leave it be and hope that it cares for itself. It needs my help since I brought it into my house and I potted it in my house. So just like this plant, your business, once the full-grown plant, even when it's in the sprouting stage and the seedling stage, it needs to be taken care of. And at this point, we had made it through our first winter. We had started to hire a team. We hired on 3 or 4 more people, and we were investing more into our marketing. And I had quit my job to run this business full time and invest more of my time and energy into it. And in addition to that, we had a site redesign, the one that I showed you before, and that helped a lot with converting more customers as well as showing more of our brand vibe, image, and mission. And with the help of the people who are working for us and this investment into marketing and this investment to the site, we really started to grow. And that's when we were seeing those $100,000, $130,000, $150,000, $200,000, $230,000 months. But just because we were hitting large revenue numbers does not mean that we were profitable each month. We had one month where we spent too much on Facebook ads. There was another where we had logistic issues at the greenhouse and had to refund a bunch of customers. And so a lot of people will see these huge revenue numbers and be like, oh my gosh, you're rolling in cash. And that's just not true, because at the end of the day, you still have all your costs that you have to pay for. So definitely be cognizant of your financials. Know what you're spending money on and make sure that those investments are valuable to the growth of your business and that you are still able to profit at the end of most months. The things that we did really well to care for our growing plant were, 1, our paid ad strategy. I might have to make another video with Zach and interview him on this, but Zach is really a genius when it comes to paid ads. He was able to scale us up while still allowing us to be profitable most of the time. He was also super patient with our ads. So the ads go through a testing phase, and you'll be spending money, but you'll be testing all of these different creatives and all of these different audiences. And he never would just pull out our ads and be like, it's not working. He was always testing and always working with them. So if you are going to run paid ads, make sure the person who's doing it for you knows what they're doing. And if you're going to do it yourself, take a course, know what you're doing. It's a really valuable skill to have, but you want to be doing it correctly. The second thing that we did well was our email marketing. I was in charge of email marketing, so it was my favorite thing, but it generated 30 to 40% of our revenue each month, which is a lot. And we focused on creating content that was educational and valuable to our customers. So our flows would talk about the soil and fertilizer and water and how much light that plants should be getting, and doing deep dives into educational content, and then sprinkling in sales there so that people didn't think when they got an email from us that it was always a sales email, it was always a discount email. There was some value there too. So with your email marketing and any backend marketing, make sure that you're creating connection with the audience and giving them value beyond the sale. The third thing that we did well is that we collected reviews early and we displayed them on our site. So the first app that you should download on your Shopify store once you're generating sales is a reviews app. And I know that you have purchased an item purely based on a review or gone to a restaurant purely based on a review. So they're super important for a business. But more importantly than collecting reviews, create a company that people are excited to leave a review about. I want to read some of our reviews because our customers were so awesome and they have these sweetest reviews. Okay, this first one is from Sarah M. I adore this fern. She's so quirky, kind of reminds me of the old rabbit ear antenna. Wow, I'm seriously aging myself. In any event, I'm very pleased with the purchase. I have a huge window in my bathroom that gives my staghorn the perfect amount of light. She also enjoys the humidity. Our customers were like, in a way, they would always refer to their plants as she or him and would give them names, which was really cute. This one's from Cynthia. Leaves are truly unique. Friends ask what it is, and I tell them it's my ZZ Top plant. I named it after one of my favorite bands. The root is really strange. Never seen anything like it before. She's grown since I first received her. I talk to my plants. So these are just some of the reviews that we had, but we had over 9,000 5-star reviews. Like, we got a lot of reviews from our customers, and we used the app Lukes, and so we collected written, video, and picture reviews, and it was super, super valuable. The fourth thing that we did well is that we implemented a subscription box program. You could get a mystery box or you could get a pet-friendly box, and this was a great way to create recurring revenue in our store. And it was also a way to develop more of a relationship with those customers who wanted plants on a monthly basis. So if you have a product that you think you could turn into a subscription box, definitely do it. We use the app Recharge and never really had a problem with them. So they're a great app to use if you have a Shopify store. And I'm sure there's other things that contributed to our growth, but these are the most notable to me. And I'm now going to share the most notable things that we did wrong. The first thing that we did wrong is that we did not differentiate our product or introduce a new product that was differentiated. So a plant, I can get this plant on our store. I can get it on another online store. I can get it at Safeway. And so when you have a product like that people can get at a lot of different places, you have to start price comparing. A customer will be like, well, I'm not buying that because I can get it at Safeway for $4 cheaper. So you're like, okay, we'll lower our prices. You don't want to be in a situation where you're lowering your prices to the point where you don't have a profit margin. So you want to have a product that has some differentiating factor so that you can charge a healthy margin on it and you don't have a lot of competition. So definitely look for products that can be differentiated. You don't have to go out and design a brand new invention, but you could even take a candle and figure out, how can I make this different, or how can I make this candle more interesting for a certain niche of customers? The second thing that we didn't do well, and is very specific to our business because Zach and I were boyfriend and girlfriend, now we're getting married, but we didn't create boundaries. So we would work during the day, we would wake up in the morning, we'd talk about the work. We'd go to bed, we'd talk about the work. We would go out to dinner and be like, please, we can't talk about the work. And we would talk about it. So if you are starting a business with your boyfriend or someone who's close to you, make sure that you're able to separate business and personal. And in addition to that, make sure that the person that you're going into business with is someone you would be in business with for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I would start a business with Zach again in a heartbeat. We would have to set up boundaries again. But, you know, there are some people I probably wouldn't want to start a business with just because our values and what we would want would not mesh. So pick your business partners really, really carefully. The third thing that we didn't do well was cutting back during the months that we were not doing as much revenue. So we would do, a $250,000 month, and then maybe winter hits, and now we're doing $100,000, but we're still spending the same amount of money. We still have downloaded some more apps. We brought on an agency. So really, you need to look at your numbers. Like, that's the one I want to drive home. You need to look at your numbers and make sure that you're making revenue and your costs are less than your revenue and you can be profitable. And the fourth thing is that we would forget to water the plant. Sometimes we would neglect the business. A business needs some nurturing and it needs care. So if there are things in the business that are hard that you don't want to do, you're probably going to have to do them anyway. You can't always just be focused on all of the fun stuff, or you need to hire someone to deal with the things that you don't want to do. And in addition to that, you can't blame issues with the business on someone else. It just becomes toxic. You really have to take ownership for everything that is going wrong, and you can take ownership for what's going well, but it's just not a way to live, to be like, oh, well, that happened, it's because of that person, or that happened because of that, I have no control. Like, you have to be positive, and you have to do the hard things. And I'm working on that skill still today. It is really hard for your ego to see something going wrong or that you're failing to be like, okay, yeah, I might have been involved in that failure. So for example, the winter shipping, when we're shipping plants in the winter and they're arriving frozen, I had thought about that. I'd been like, okay, we probably should do this, and then never acted on it. And then when it happened, I was like, oh yeah, the supplier probably should totally figure that out. It's like, okay, well, you could have said something, and what are you going to do now? So I still have to work on this. It's definitely not easy. So now we are in the stage of repotting. So this plant actually does need to get repotted. You can tell by the soil. But when a plant outgrows its pot, it becomes root bound and it stops growing. And so you need to repot it. And so over this past year, we've been looking for a new pot for cellar door plants. We got to a point with cellar door plants where Zach and I realized that we might not be the best owners to continue our mission. We were just not very strategically set up for this business. Like, we didn't really own the distribution, we didn't own the greenhouse, we didn't really own the plants, and so we didn't have a lot of control of the price or differentiating the product. And so we came to this conclusion that we wanted to partner up with someone or hand this business off to another big player in the plant industry. And I think that Zach and I would be capable to grow this business if we wanted to take on funding and if we had more passion around it and really, really believed and wanted to continue to grow it. But we just didn't. And it was also becoming a little bit harder, our relationship at that point. And so we were like, okay, it's time to hand it off. And something I did kind of struggle with during that time was like, okay, it feels like I'm quitting. Like, I'm quitting on this business, which didn't feel good. But we realized, like, okay, we could have quit it's been 3 years. We could have quit a long time ago. What we realized is, like, this business served its purpose for us. For me, it showed me that I could create a business, I can run a business, and that there is a lot of opportunity out there for me. And for Zach, it did the same. I would have him talk more on what it did for him, but it served its purpose for us, and it was time to move on. And as of today, that is a reality. We have sold the business, we have repotted the plant, and I learned a lot during that experience. So much so, I'm going to make it into another video. I'm not going to include it in this one. I'm going to save this one to just be the growth of cellar door plants. But I am super, super grateful for everything that we learned along the way and for all the connections that we made through cellar door plants. It was an awesome opportunity. And it didn't always feel like that sometimes, but looking back on it, I can totally see that it was. If you got to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.